we have conservatives now. We're going to change these laws, all this crazy stuff they're teaching in schools, and we're going to say outlaw this and put this in and all that. I don't believe in that. That's a use of force. Matter of fact, I don't even believe the government should be in our schools.
Yes.
It's not authorized in the Constitution, and that's the source of all our problems. And then the universities are owned by the government. All student loans and all the professors, they're all tied into the government.
What's going on, everyone? Talk to Kenny here today. I want to get my analysis on this Tucker Carlson's interview. It's a snippet of his interview with Ron Paul. As you know, Ron Paul was a popular libertarian conservative that he was very anti-interventionist. And I felt like when people were saying that the conservative movement become far right, I just think what they're trying to say is that the conservative movement is becoming more populist. And I believe national conservatism is actually the best form of conservatism, honestly, is that you take the best interest of your citizens. And it's not in the best interest of the citizens to be educated or have the government have the ability to influence what information the citizenry is allowed to learn and not to learn. It sounds more socialist than actually capitalistic. And government in its nature, it's an institution of force, not persuasion, but force. It puts a gun to your head, makes you pay taxes. You don't voluntarily give your taxes unless you're a business because you control how that money is made. But still, they put a gun to your hand. It's essentially taxation is death. That is the philosophy of a libertarian. And as a conservative, I believe the middle ground here between the libertarians and the conservative is the fact that, hey, some taxes are beneficial if it's in the use of enforcing or increasing the liberty of its citizenry. An example of this would be school choice. Instead of the government dictating what schools you're allowed to go to and not allowed to go to, the government has merely said, okay, here's $6,000. We're going to use this so you can put your kid or help you put your kid at any institution that you want to do. You want to put your kid in public school, you have the money to do so. You want to put your kid in private school, it'll help with that, with the intuition in that. If you want to put your kid in charter school, it'll help fund that. And in a more of a free market kind of way, government funds is being leveraged and used by the individual citizen. I see the government as being the servant of the citizens, not the other way around. And it seems like we have many in our government that views the citizens as a servant of the government when it's supposed to be the other way around. This is why I say politicians are not my leaders. Politicians are my representatives, and they have a purpose for why they're going there. I see America as the board of directors, and end of the day, no matter how powerful of a CEO you have, if the board of directors decide, hey, we want you out, you out. And that's how we should view the presidency. But of today, left-wing institutional control of journalism, media, Hollywood, they have put this perception on people that somehow presidents are some type of leaders. And they are in a way, but the more accurate distinction are they are a public servant that represents the interests of their people. But for the longest time, it seems like our government has not been representing us, but they've been representing something else. And I say it's communism, Marxism, socialism. And it's been commonly documented in the 1980s that socialists love to go into institutions of education, because I believe, like many conservatives believe, that education is actually the pillar of a society. Because if you have false education, if you have an education that teaches you to hate your country, demonize all the virtuous things and all the important things and all the impactful things that your country has done, if you've been educated not to have any pride in your country, you won't have any vigor or any passion or any courage to stand up for your country. And this is what I believe the left has been pushing, because the left is ideologically dominates colleges and many institutions in our education system. And that's why I agree with Ron Paul. Even if you look at the bureaus of all these government agencies, they're overwhelmingly dominated by Democratic actors. If you just look at where these bureaus politically lean, who they donate their money to, overwhelmingly it goes to the Democratic Party. This is what the deep state is. And allowing government to have control over our education system, I think, was the biggest flaw in all this. This is why I want Department of Education abolished, destroyed, finito, gone. This is why I was a big supporter of Vivek.
And schools to some degree. What is it our schools are doing? Are they reinforcing the family, or are they destroying the family? Disney. Good God, I've never seen anybody go more wrong than Disney. So that pillar is greatly damaged. Law and order. Third pillar of society. Law and order. That's the police. We reimagined them. The judges. Really? The DAs, George Soros. The attorney generals, George Soros. The Justice Department. And civil rights. Does Donald Trump have the same civil rights as Hunter Biden? Next pillar, money, the economy. That's the banks, the Fed trying to keep inflation down, gold, the businesses and jobs and debt. Do you trust the Fed on any of these things? Do you trust the government on any of these things? Do you trust the big, huge banks that they're not ripping you off? And I don't mean stealing pennies from you. I mean by making risky bets, losing it all, and then we pay for it. Do you trust that?
Wow. Right? The Federal Reserve, they don't teach us any, like, end of the day, if the government, let's say the government has control of your schools, because this is my argument to a lot of people who believe in socialist policies. My idea is if the government is responsible for it, the government has authority over it. So if the government is responsible for public school, you go there for free, right? The trade-off is, public school is free and it's pretty decent. In a way, you're saying, hey, government, you're allowed to influence my kid and pay for whatever ideology you want to push into my kid's schools. We found out they're teaching LGBTQ stuff in our schools. Parents had a problem with that. Teachers who insist they're not teaching your kids about sex are also weirdly outraged by ban on teaching your kids about sex, right? The fact that we want to remove that possibility, they're angry about it because what? It was probably a step in the direction that they wanted us to go. Does the government, essentially what I'm trying to highlight here with my clip with Glenn Beck, and as a conservative, I recognize that because as a conservative, I believe, and this is what makes me a conservative and not a libertarian, I believe to shrink the government, you must use state power to do so. Sorry. I see it as, this is how I see it. I see the state as a conservative that I need state power in certain instances. Hey, I want to incentivize certain behaviors in my society as a way of regulating the marketplace. Some regulation I believe in some regulation, while libertarians believe in no regulation, that it will fix itself out. And I believe the government acts more like a referee, making sure that everything is fair and dandy and that we're doing things in the best interest of the nation, aka the community, aka the people. That's why I said this is servant leadership. Government is subservient to its citizens, not the other way around. This is my view as a conservative. Idealistic, maybe, but that's how I see the government. So whenever I see the government doing something in its own best interest, aka Department of Education, how you know that the Department of Education is not incentivizing your kids, which is 76% of the American population's children are educated in the public school system. Have you seen any videos of Gen Z lately? They can barely do math. You got people out here saying that tests are racist because minority groups don't do well as other groups of people in there, pushing for equal outcome. You got teachers unions running on, hey, we shouldn't have grades anymore. Grades is meant to track and measure the education and the performance of the teachers and how well they're educating our students on certain subjects that are important for the flourishing and the productivity of the society. Why would you want to remove grades out of schools? Why would you want to remove tests out of schools? Because it's no longer about educating and preparing Americans. It's more about breeding activists and people who are pro the government. And this is one of the reasons why I agree with Ron Paul. I believe the government should have no interaction in the education of its citizenry. Because if you can educate somebody, many socialists have said this, give me your child and let me educate your child and I'll make a socialist out of him yet. I'll make an activist out of him yet. Adolf Hitler said he'll make them a, you know what? This is what happens when you're giving control over the government. And don't put it past the government, because at the end of the day, the government relies on force. This is the reason why it's not in the best interest of the citizenry to be so enthralled with the government. Argentina is a perfect example. For years, they've been dealing with high records inflation. But look at it when they get Milei in there. December, 25%, January, 20%, and February 2024, 13%. All because he cut government bloat. That's what happened. We have government bloat. I don't know how many federal agencies we have. The registry keeps increasing every year. Someone in the comment section will let me know the exact numbers. But I know there's a lot of government agencies that we do not technically need. Argentina has just recorded its first budget surplus in 12 years. Milei was inaugurated 3 months ago. So this is the path forward. The path forward is not more government. Progressives. This is what I'm saying. The Democrat Party, there should be no reason anyone's voting Democrat today. That's just my thoughts. In this next clip, Ron Paul is going to go into the deep state, who they are, and what their aims are. Let's take a look.
Why do you think that over the last, I don't know, let's just start with Reagan. So 44 years since Reagan got elected, the core of the Republican or conservative idea has been smaller government. And they've had power at various times, and they've shared power for all of that time. And yet government is many times bigger than it was 44 years ago. So what was that? Did they not mean it? Is it impossible? Like, what's
the people in charge are the ones that do it. There's a lot of people who still don't want that, but that's why whoever that deep state guy is, they direct things pretty well.
The deep state. Who is the deep state guy, by the way?
Well, I don't have a list in front of me.
I have no idea.
Well, I think it's people who have tremendous power, and they happen to hate liberty, and they happen to be people that have endorsed, because of their wealth, they've been able to get a lot of wealth, and because of that, they become nihilists. They don't believe in truth. Truth is impossible to reach, and there's a whole philosophy of nihilism that you can't believe in truth, and so it's rejected. But everybody wants something to believe in, so they believe in themselves. Your question is why some of the rich people become bums.
Yes, why do some of the rich people become bums? It's nicely put.
I think it's because they don't have a belief in a higher spirit.
Yeah.
But like I've mentioned to you, that I don't think my position, what I'm doing here in Congress, I'm there to say, well, I know if you'd go to this church and do all, not that, but spiritually, everybody can have a spiritual life. And I don't think the nihilists can get rid of their spiritual life. They have a substitute, and
Yes.
they become the sort of the substitute, and they know what's best for everybody.
Smart.
Yeah.
Damn, and we had a chance to elect this guy and we didn't. America, look, at some point, man, we can't keep blaming the politicians. We had a chance to vote in a guy like this, and we chose not to. Why? Because we want to protect Social Security. We want to protect government entitlements. Even though at the short term, in the short term, it may benefit you, but at the long term, it'll destroy the future of your children and grandchildren. And it seems like, and this is why I'm talking, this is why I said that education is the pillar of society, is because we've been educated that, oh no, the government's supposed to look out for our welfare. The government's supposed to be looking out for what we're supposed to do. But like I said, if the government is responsible for your lifestyle, they have authority over your lifestyle. If the government is responsible for your education, they have authority over your education. And what he pointed out in the deep state point is been something I've been talking about recently. I did a video about nihilism and religion, and how religion, principles, virtue is a counter to nihilism, because nihilists don't believe in truth. This is why I don't really trust atheists, because I know they have no moral objectivity. Their morality is very subjective. Their morality is very relative, and they can bend it to whatever ends they need to get a certain outcome that they want, because nihilists only believe in power. And they believe they know what's best for you. And this is the problem with the deep state. The deep state is this idea that the government knows what's best for you, as if you were a slave. And this is my problem. Nihilism is rooted in socialism. Karl Marx said it best. If you're an atheist, you're 90% on your way to becoming a socialist. That's what Karl Marx said. That's how confident he was about this nihilistic idea. If you see in some books about communists have some warped views on morality. And morality for communists is based in moral relativism. What religion puts into the ideas into people spiritually is the idea that there is something that is outside of yourself. You do not determine what truth is. Truth is just is. It's self-evident. Natural law, whatever you want to call it. But that's what the biblical Bible teaches you. This is what religion teaches you. That the truth does not exist merely based on your own rationalization. But the truth, your rationale, is means to be guided and used to discover the truth. Stoics talk about this. I'm a Stoic. I identify more as a Stoic than I do as a Christian. And as a Stoic, they talk about this idea of logos, truth. That you use your reasoning to seek the truth, not to seek power. That's what nihilists do. Nihilists seek power because they say, oh, everything is meaningless, but you can't remove this idea, the need to believe in something. And this might be my live stream for this episode of my live stream for episode 48, is that how the left has treated their ideology as a religion. And now they're pushing this religion on everyone else, forcing us to conform. And this is where I get some pushback on the liberals. Liberals were the first one to preach separation of church and state, but now they're in power. They're going, no, we want everyone to believe in this stuff. We want everyone to believe that men can be women. And atheists go right along with it because they don't believe in, because atheists have no morality. I'm sorry to say that. Atheists have no morality. This is why atheism was considered bad. That's why a lot of classical liberals did not like atheism, because atheism is essentially a secular religion. The religion of believing in nothing. Atheism is just a branch of nihilism. And we see how self-destructive nihilism can be. And look at our country. In America, we're the least religious we've ever been in our history. And look at the social ills that we're facing. Look at the mental illness that we're dealing with. Look at the mass shooting that's been, many conservatives are pointing out that it's probably a symptom of the large rate of mental illness we have in our country. But the left don't want to hear it. They want to blame the guns. They want to blame something else. Because they know the guns is a threat to them exerting power over the citizenry. So they try to find a pretext, an excuse to ban guns. Oh, look at all these mass shootings. But they ain't gonna stop the crime. Look at the social fabric of our country. And what is the source of all that? Education, our knowledge system, which is something I want to do another video on. But hey, let me know your thoughts about the Ron Paul discussion. Do you agree with Ron Paul about the deep state, about their ends, their means? Do you also agree with me that education should not be facilitated by the government? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I really be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Peace.